Hello and good afternoon. My name is David Lazarescu. I'm part of the Software Engineering CIS-1512 class. And for my prototype presentation, I have my website called Polo. And here's just some of the code base behind it. I have just basically a lot of the essential formatting ready. I do have a few more things that I do want added in the future. So this is just going to be what it is for now for the prototype, just so you get a good sense of what it's supposed to be. So we'll skip off this, it's not very necessary, but here's the actual layout design so far. So essentially I just want it to be 2 games per page and similar genre, essentially in a way competitor games from different companies. And I want the user to basically pick one of the 2 options, and once they pick a graph showing data types, certain data types such as like their hours played that they inputted, or on a scale of 1 to like 10, let's say how much they enjoyed the game. So this is page 1. This is be our survival section. Later on, it might be worth having comparing Rust to other similar survival games, or comparing Tarkov to other similar survival games. It could be mixed and matched essentially. So when it comes to our esports page, like it's all very similar so far. I wanna change some of the color here, make it a little bit more apt for each game genre. And then when we come here, essentially this same story, and this is for the open world fantasy RPG. This will be our next page, which this is open world sandbox, and this should kind of give you an idea of what I'm expecting here. And when it comes to genres, I kind of want to cover quite an extensive amount of genres, just to give like the user, as many options as they want when it comes to games they play, because not everyone plays the same games I would, for example. I want there to be options for those people as well. Another option we have here is MOBAs. So here we compare Dota to League of Legends, and I know these games aren't exactly always super comparable, because they all bring their own positives and negatives to that genre in terms of what you can do in that game, what people don't like about that game, so on and so forth. But it's still interesting to get the user's perspective. So that was my goal with this project. I'm interested in hearing what people don't like, what they do like, what they prefer, why. For our last option here, we have the Battle Royale segment. This is just like 2 of the biggest hitters, I'd say. For this is a bit older, but it was quite some years ago. It was a big hit. Fortnite, a little bit old too, but still relevant, I'd say. Not every comparison here is going to be exactly perfect, because, well, some games, for example, like Cyberpunk and GTA, well, this game's a lot more recent than this one, but, these things can be adjusted, they can be changed. For example, this GTA 6 is going to come out soon. Maybe that'll get replaced, or maybe this will stay. And then you could also compare Cyberpunk to GTA 6 or Cyberpunk to GTA 5, just to give options, essentially. So another thing I have added here is the sign in. No real functionality yet. I'm still working on that, but I do want users to create accounts. I think it's important, because that will allow us to retain their data and their voting data, essentially, on what they voted for and why. Another feature I'm thinking about adding is potentially a comments section at the bottom of the page. I think that could be interesting. It might not be apt to fit it into this semester's project, but based off of how progress goes, I think that would be a very interesting thing to add. So as far as when it comes to like what I want to happen when the user clicks, I have a little bit here. So I'll just do this quickly. Now this is just a very rough kind of representation of what I'm looking for. So when the user clicks, I want a chart to show up, and as you can see, this is votes. These are made up numbers, by the way. I would have like a chart for voting, an average of the user's hours on the game, just to kind of get that information too. Just see what an average is of, how long that game kept that person playing. And another thing is, again, like I mentioned earlier, I want to collect an average recommendation number. So like let's say it's a 1 to 10 scale and 100 people voted, like, let's say, what does this look like, 7? So if like 100 people voted 7, it would be a 7 out of 10. As far as the implementation of how this chart will look on the page after the user clicks is what I'm working on currently. I'm thinking about either just having one chart per game pop up after the fact, or kind of something like this in the middle, but either way, that's not as important. So touching back on the comments section, I was interested in adding comments because, well, as you can see here, I made a pros and cons list. So I want the users to interact. I think that would be a really good way of keeping people coming back, as well as just getting more input, for those votes. So those are the pros, essentially. I think those can be important. I think, a comment section is, it's very common to us. We're all used to it. And I think it's almost necessary at this day and age, especially for something like this. Otherwise, I don't think people would stay on this website for very long if there weren't a way for them to interact with other people. The only problems are, though, is that I've never really worked with making a comment section before. So it could be a challenge. I'm not sure how I can make it work fitting in the semester here. But if time allows it, I will work on it. And I do think it will increase the database complexity, but maybe not too much. So I'll just have to figure that out, essentially. But that's my prototype so far, and I think I really like the simple layout and design. It's important to me because I feel like sometimes, you go on certain websites, like honestly, even for example D2L, and it can get overwhelming quickly. So I'm trying to avoid that and just keep it clear, concise, simple. I do want to have a navigation feature added as well. So let's say, right now there's technically no way to get from this page to any of the other voting pages, and I mean that just can't work, obviously. So I will have a navigation feature. I want to sort it by genre right now, just because I'm more so working off genres instead of individual games. So like let's pretend there's a function right here, and I'll click, and then I'll just go to let's say I want to get to the MOBA section. I'll click on MOBA and it'll take me here, and then I could vote here. So overall, I think I prefer this simple approach. It's, you have to find a balance between simpleness and functionality, but I think it could work. I think it would look nice. So that is my prototype, and thank you for watching.